Hey everyone, just wanted to do a brief review of this. I sold out. I bought a Festool.
We have found the witch, may we burn her!
This is an ETS EC125 3EQ Plus sander because they couldn't come up with a shorter name. I don't know why, but this is it. And I have used this for a couple of days, and I figured I'd give a brief review on this product and if it's worth it. For a while, I've been using a Bosch sander that was about $60 or $70. What this is about is if this sander is worth, spending 5 or 6 times as much as you would on any other sander. So part of this here is this is a 3mm stroke sander. My previous Bosch one was 5/64. That would make this 8/64 or 1/8 inch, so it's a little bit more of a stroke. Otherwise, at a glance, it offers many of the same features. It has built-in dust collection, it has adjustable speed, and it's got an on-off switch. This is about all the same I could say for my Bosch sander that cost nothing in comparison. It comes in this sustainer, which these are really nice. They're a little flimsy if you ask me, but they're well laid out and I like the inserts in them. It comes with one piece of 120 grit sandpaper, and it comes with a power cord, which is not here because it is hooked up to my dust extractor. The important difference between this and other sanders is this does have a brushless motor. What that means is it runs a little bit quieter and a little bit smoother, and it has better control over speed. But overall, it is not a night and day performance over an average sander. What I did find interesting is this does have a feature here that allows it to detect whether or not a dust collector is attached to it, and will not allow you to turn the tool on unless the dust collector is attached. By default, this feature is disabled, so you don't need to worry about that. I was very happy to find out that rather than depending on some kind of an electrical connection with a proprietary Festool dust extractor, it uses a simple infrared detector right here to find out if a hose is over this. So in practice, this sounds like a really good idea. I did initially enable this, but it frequently tripped on my fine dust extractor. So it looks like this needs to be completely covered properly, which only happens, I'm guessing, on a Festool dust extractor hose. One other thing I found with this tool that is true of all Festool sanders is that it has a proprietary hole pattern in the bottom for dust collection. So rather than a typical 5-inch sander, which has 8 holes, this has 9 holes plus claims to offer better dust collection. I have yet to see that in practice compared to a standard 8-hole sander. The primary reason I purchased this was to reduce vibration for extended use. So I'll sand for sometimes 2 or 3 hours at a time, and by the time I'm done, I can't feel my hand. And I can happily say that this achieved that goal. After about an hour of sanding, which is the most I've done at a time with this, it felt as if I hadn't been using a sander at all. There was no fatigue, no issues with that. The sander doesn't have any kind of gyroscopic effect that I've found. Overall, it's very comfortable to use for an extended period of time. With all Festool tools, they do have this removable power cord, which in practice sounds like a really great idea because you can replace the power cord if it becomes frayed or damaged, but they are very expensive. They're about $60 for a replacement power cord, which is more than I like to spend on one. Now on to what I think is probably the biggest disadvantage of this, is you can buy this fancy sandpaper from Festool that matches its hole pattern. And here's my problem. This is 100 sheets of 220 grit sandpaper, and it is $63. So you're paying a little over 50 cents a sheet per piece of sandpaper, and I think that's a pretty high price. The other disadvantage is you just can't go to the store around the corner, the big box store, and get sandpaper for this thing because it's not compatible, and that's frustrating. There is a potential solution though, and that is the folks at Klingspor. Klingspor makes sandpaper for various sanders of all shapes and sizes, and they do match the Festool 9-hole pattern, which is really great. I'm glad that they offer that. One of these boxes is about $15.95, I believe, for 50 sheets. So we're spending about half as much money for the same amount of sandpaper here. That's a big deal. It's a big savings. What I have yet to find out is if this is half as good for half the money, but I don't think so. I think this is going to be probably about at least 80% of the quality of the Festool sandpaper, maybe better. So in the future, I will likely be buying this Klingspor paper for my sander here. One other thing to note in regards to the sandpaper you're using is in the store, I was told by the sales representative that this sander should not be used with less than 400 grit sandpaper. And as far as I understand, that is a complete misunderstanding of this tool and what it's for. So if anyone tells you that, I would ignore them. Your typical 5-inch random orbital sander, as I said, in my case with the Bosch one, had a 5/64 stroke, and this has an 8/64 stroke, so it's a larger stroke, but it's meant to take more material off. So there's no reason to use only high grit sandpaper here. If I had to venture a guess, it's because in order to do material removal, they would like to sell you one of the Festool Rotex sanders at $500 or $600, and that was not worth it to me. This is more than adequate for anything as low as 60 to 80 grit, if you ask me. All right, we're gonna head over to the bench, and we're gonna compare this to the Bosch that I have in function and form here and see what the difference is, and I'll show you some of the differences that I've noticed. All right, so this is the Bosch that I've been using. This is the ROS 20VS, if you feel like looking it up. A few things that this offers that the Festool does not. It does have an option for a canister on the back that is filtered for dust collection, and in my experience, this works very well. It's very limited capacity, but it does work very well at picking up dust on its own and keeping it out of the air. This does also come with a vacuum adapter, so you can hook it up to a standard 1¼ inch back port, which is really nice. The Festool sander did not include any kind of bag or canister, nor did it include a vacuum adapter. This one was provided by Fine with my dust extractor. And it gets the job done. It does fit on there nice and snug, so I'm very happy with that. You're not going to be able to tell the difference on camera in sanding quality here, but know that I do have a Festool 220 grit sandpaper here and an equivalent Klingspor aluminum zirconia sandpaper on the Bosch. I will say that this tool feels like I need to baby it a little bit more than the Bosch, where I did not mind throwing this around a little bit. So what I'd like to demonstrate here is noise. It's going to be a little bit hard to tell because it's all going to be loud, especially if you're wearing headphones. But note that the noise that you're hearing here is going to be with a dust extractor attached. Now we're going to run the Festool also with the vac. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to run both without the vacuum here. Important feature difference is when this runs, this pad will spin down and take a few seconds to do that. So you can't immediately put the sander down somewhere or stop it on your workpiece. Just to demonstrate quickly. Versus the Festool that stops almost immediately. Also notice that I am running this at a slightly slower speed because I can. With its brushless motor and speed control here, it will always maintain that speed. Where with the Bosch, I need to set the speed a little bit higher, and as I put it down to the workpiece, it does bog down a bit. Where I notice the difference is that my hand is already tingly from that Bosch, just from running it for maybe 2 minutes during these demonstrations. Where, again, sanding for more than an hour at a time with this Festool, I have not had that issue. Lastly, I would state that I do believe I get a better surface finish, all things considered, with the Festool sander. I don't know if that is a factor of the paper, because these are both high quality papers, or the sander itself, but I do believe that the orbital pattern on the Festool is a little more consistent. So it runs at a constant speed and rate and oscillates at the same rate. So it's a little easier to control than this, which is a little bit more wild. This I've had dig in and throw off my workpiece and create swirl marks once in a while, where I haven't had that experience with the Festool yet. I would say that they are about the same weight, but sanders with the power that this one has, that would be an equivalent from, say, Bosch or DeWalt, seem to be a little bit heavier than the Festool. I also like this form factor a little better. It's nice and low, so it's low center of gravity, so it's not having some kind of a gyroscope effect in your hand here. So I think we can come to a few conclusions here. This is a great sander. It performs very well, but it's also very expensive. If this is your business, if this is your life, if this is what you're doing every single day, and that's what I am doing. I am using this as a business here. My CNC business is starting to pick up a little bit, and I've been doing a lot of sanding once I take a piece off of the CNC. Spending a few hours sanding, I want to be comfortable. I want my end result to be good, and this tool helps me do that. As a hobbyist, I could not justify this. I think as a pro user, this is an exceptional tool. I think as a hobbyist, you'd be ecstatic with sanding, but a lot more broke. This is a business expense, but as a hobbyist, I would not be able to justify this cost. So as a hobbyist, I think I would recommend the Bosch or a similar DeWalt or other well-known manufacturer. They're all gonna perform roughly the same. This is just a tiny step up in comfort and noise, and maybe even your surface finish, but it's not enough to justify as a hobbyist. If you are a business looking to be more efficient and offer a better work environment for yourself or your employees, this is a good choice. There are other sanders that are, I would say, better or equivalent to this, but I would say that they cost a lot more. For example, the Mirka Deros sanders, that is their direct electric sander with a very similar form factor, except it has a paddle switch rather than a button. That sander is about $625, where this is about $400, so this is a very good value in comparison to other pro-level electric sanders. If you are a pro in a real industrial shop with piped-in air, you may be better off looking at air sanders. I think you can get a lot more value in an air sander at the same or less price. But if you're going for an electric sander in a pro shop, I absolutely recommend the Festool ETS EC125/3 EQ Plus, even though its name is way too long. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.